On October 15, 2021, 22-year-old Emily Ferlazzo and her 41-year-old husband, Joseph Ferlazzo, left their home for a weekend trip to Bolton, Vermont. They were celebrating their first wedding anniversary and traveled in their converted camper van, known as Roaming Rosie. But just 4 days later, on October 19th, Joseph returned, without Emily. Where is Emily? Why did Joseph come back alone? And the things Joseph claimed about Emily, were they true, or just lies to cover up something darker? Let's go back to the beginning and find out what really happened. Emily Ferlazzo, a 22-year-old woman full of life, ambition, and kindness, was born in Tampa, Florida, but grew up in Northfield, New Hampshire. After her family relocated there during her childhood, she lived with her parents. She worked as a licensed nursing assistant and was also studying cosmetology. She also had a passion for music and frequently sang during high school events. Meanwhile, Joseph Ferlazzo, a 41-year-old man, was born in Pennsylvania and later moved to Vermont. He worked as a full-time tattoo artist, operating out of a small studio set up in Vermont. The two met around 2019 through mutual connections, though they lived in different states. Their love grew quickly, but their 19-year age gap quickly raised concerns among Emily's family and friends. Even more alarming was Joseph's controlling behavior, which became evident early in their relationship. He began isolating Emily from her loved ones, monitoring her phone, and discouraging her professional goals. Despite the red flags, the relationship moved quickly. In October 2020, during the COVID-19 pandemic, Emily and Joseph got married. They lived primarily in a self-renovated camper van, Roaming Rosie, parked on Emily's parents' property in New Hampshire. The van had basic amenities like a bed, kitchenette, and shower. Whenever it needed repairs, they stayed with her parents. Both Emily and Joseph dreamed of traveling cross-country in their camper van, Roaming Rosie. So, on October 15, 2021, they set off for a weekend trip to Bolton, Vermont, to celebrate their first wedding anniversary. And this trip was more special for Emily because she met Joseph's sister, Nikki, for the first time. They arrived around 8 p.m. Nikki and her boyfriend had booked an Airbnb at Bear Run Condos, and Emily and Joseph planned to park and stay in their camper nearby. The plan was for everyone to have breakfast together the next morning on October 16, 2021, so Emily could formally meet Joseph's family. But when everyone gathered the next morning, Emily wasn't with Joseph. Nikki asked him, "Where's Emily?" Joseph replied that Emily had drunk too much the night before and couldn't wake up in the morning. Nikki was a bit surprised by this, but she didn't say anything at the time. Later that day, after breakfast, Joseph spent time with Nikki and her boyfriend like everything was normal. They ate meals together, sat around campfires, and even went to a nearby tattoo shop where Joseph got a new tattoo. But as the hours passed, Nikki began to notice that something didn't feel right. Emily still hadn't contacted anyone, not even Joseph. So Nikki asked Joseph again, "Where's Emily?" This time, Joseph told her that Emily had gone out for a walk earlier and hadn't come back yet. He said she needed some space and probably just wanted to be alone for a while. Nikki found that a bit unusual. Emily didn't know the area, and it wasn't like her to wander off without telling anyone. But Joseph didn't seem worried, so she held back her concerns. On October 17, 2021, Joseph changed his story. He told Nikki that Emily had taken an Uber and left on her own. This new excuse confused Nikki even more. Why would Emily leave their anniversary trip without her phone, her belongings, or even a simple goodbye? That same day, Emily's family noticed her important medication was still at home. Worried, they tried contacting her, sending several texts and making repeated calls, but got no response from Emily herself. Instead, Joseph replied to a few messages, claiming everything was fine, while continuing to ignore their phone calls. As the family grew more concerned and demanded to speak with Emily herself, Joseph finally gave them a new excuse on October 18th. He told them that Emily had taken an Uber home and had returned on her own. That same day, her family reported her missing to the Vermont State Police. The next day, On October 19, 2021, Joseph Ferlazzo returned to Emily's parents' house in Northfield, New Hampshire, alone, without Emily. Later that night, he parked the van in a noticeable place and lied by saying that Emily had taken an Uber home. But his lie quickly fell apart when Emily's stepfather found her purse, her daily medicine, and her service dog Remington still inside the van, things Emily would never leave behind on purpose. Blood saturation in the mattress, walls, and ceiling. On October 19th, after Joseph handed Emily's blood-stained license to her family, he appeared visibly shaken and quickly fled New Hampshire in the van. That same day, authorities issued a statewide BOLO, Be on the Lookout alert.
Well, Brian, Alice, Joseph Ferlazzo was recognized at a Maple Fields convenience store earlier today by a state police detective, and that detective bringing him here to the St. Albans barracks just minutes away from that store, where he eventually confessed to killing his 22-year-old wife, Emily. The pair had traveled from New Hampshire to Vermont on a trip.
Investigators initially focused on hiking trails in Bolton, based on Joseph's false claim that Emily had gone for a walk there and never returned. At 4:30 p.m., Vermont State Police arrested Joseph at a gas station. Joseph agreed to go with the officers for questioning. During the interview, he admitted to killing Emily inside their camper van. He claimed that on the night of October 18th, they got into a heated argument during which Emily was punching and yelling, and even kicked him.
Being forceful and aggressive with me. Turned to punching and kicking and just a lot of hurtful things that I can't even remember. Where was she punching you?
He said he lost control and, in a moment of rage, shot her in the head with a 9mm handgun. After the shooting, Joseph sat alone in the van with her body for 12 to 15 hours. Eventually, he decided to dismember her using a handsaw, placing the remains into 8 plastic bags, which he stored in the van's shower. When police searched the camper, they found the 8 bags containing Emily's body, the saw still with tissue residue, and Joseph's blood-stained jacket.
Having off the body parts on it. White.
DNA tests confirmed the blood matched Emily's, placing him directly at the scene during the dismemberment. Forensic evidence proved that Joseph was lying. There was no alcohol in Emily's body, which showed she wasn't drunk like he had claimed. The red pillow he used to hide the sound of the gunshots had its fabric stuck in the bullet that killed her. Just one day after his arrest, on October 20th, 2021, Joseph Ferlazzo was officially arraigned in Chittenden County Superior Court in Burlington, Vermont. He faced a charge of first-degree murder for the brutal killing and dismemberment of his wife, Emily Ferlazzo. Despite confessing in detail to the Vermont State Police just a day earlier, despite his detailed confession, Joseph entered a plea of not guilty in court. This decision surprised many, especially given the overwhelming physical evidence and his own recorded confession. The legal process continued for over 3 years, leading up to December 2024, when a jury found Joseph guilty of first-degree murder after a full trial. During the proceedings, he attempted to claim self-defense, saying Emily had physically attacked him. However, the jury firmly rejected this narrative.
We are following some breaking news just into the newsroom in the last half hour or so. A jury has just found a New Hampshire man guilty of first-degree murder for killing his wife in Bolton, Vermont. The jury deliberated for just under 3 hours before reaching the decision. Joseph Ferlazzo was charged with murdering his wife Emily Jean and dismembering her body in October of 2021. The two had gone to Vermont from New Hampshire for an anniversary trip.
On April 24th, 2025, Joseph was sentenced to 42.5 years to life in prison. The sentence reflected the seriousness of the crime, as well as the lasting trauma inflicted on Emily's family and friends. The courtroom was heavy with emotion on sentencing day. Emily's father, David Bass, delivered a heartbreaking victim impact statement saying, "The murder was the worst day of my life. It destroyed my sense of peace. I now live with PTSD. There is no recovery from this." He described how every day since his daughter's death had been filled with pain and emptiness. Emily's best friend, Lauren Eckelberger, also addressed the court, describing Emily as a person who mattered, an absolute light in this world. Her smile, her laugh, her kindness, those things lit up every room she entered. Adrienne Bass, Emily's mother, held up a photo of her daughter singing, declaring, "A mother, an auntie, a grandmother, labels she was denied." As Joseph offered a hollow apology, Emily's family walked out. Judge Pacht condemned his detachment, noting he tattooed himself and socialized by a campfire hours after murdering Emily. Their statements helped underline the devastating emotional cost of the crime, a loss that went far beyond the facts of the investigation and court records. The tragedy of Emily Ferlazzo's story lies not only in the brutal act of violence, but also in the signs of control, manipulation, and the deeply troubling behavior that emerged in her marriage. Her dreams, kindness, and potential were cut short by a man she once trusted. This case serves as a stark reminder of the importance of addressing domestic abuse and being attentive to warning signs in relationships, no matter how seemingly small or private they may appear. If this video helped you understand the warning signs, or if you think it might help someone else, please consider liking, subscribing, and sharing this video. Your support helps us keep telling stories that matter. And most importantly, it spreads awareness that could save lives.